The message arrived in a flash of shimmering light and regal insignia. Delivered by an Imperial courier drone, it hovered over the United Nations Council chamber, emitting a high-pitched tone that silenced the room. Then it spoke in perfect sterile Earth standard. By decree of the Galactic Throne, all subject worlds are hereby summoned to contribute senior military officers to aid in the sovereign war against the Voidborn aggressors. Failure to comply will result in immediate punitive sanctions and review of planetary membership. The drone pulsed once, then disintegrated into ash. The silence in the chamber lingered, heavy with something that wasn't quite fear, but close. The Galactic Empire didn't make requests, and they had never before included Earth in any military cooperation. President Kaido leaned back in his seat and muttered, "They've finally run out of bodies." General Molina, chair of Earth Defense Forces, scoffed. "And now they remember we exist." "Typical. What should we send?" asked the German delegate. "We've got a few polished officers trained in Imperial doctrine. They can play nice, and we're the silly capes." "No," said Molina. Her voice was cold steel. "They want generals?" "We don't have generals." "We do," someone corrected. "But they're either desk jockeys or dead." She turned slowly to the president. "Sir, allow me to make a recommendation." The facility was 20 stories underground, buried beneath the Arctic permafrost. No insignia, no records, just a retinal scan, 3 blood samples, and a verbal code whispered to a wall that hummed in response. Molina walked the length of the corridor in silence, flanked by 2 MPs. On either side were rooms, more like reinforced cells. Observation windows showed fragments of lives best kept secret. A man painting war scenes with his own blood. A woman tearing pages from a psychology textbook, one by one, licking each before tossing it into the fire. These were Earth's real weapons. Project Hades, highly aggressive deployed execution specialists. 10 individuals, each once considered too dangerous, unstable, or ethically compromised for conventional warfare. Each responsible for ending wars through methods that left international law in smoking ruins. They weren't generals. They were monsters bred for battle and caged during peacetime. Now it seemed the galaxy needed monsters. "Who's leading this crew?" Molina asked the warden. "Technically, no one, but they all listen to Carson. Ex-Delta, ex-Black Site Commander, ex-Court Marshal. 3 of them, actually. He's the only one to ever beat a polyhedron AI in zero-G kill simulation. And his psych eval, redacted. Show me anyway." The warden hesitated, then handed over a file. The first line read, "Carson operates on a blend of predatory instinct and post-human warfare logic. Recommend, never unsupervised, never unarmed, either. He's more dangerous when bored." The next morning, the 10 soldiers were lined up on the tarmac at Earth Space Dock Alpha, wearing freshly issued combat uniforms. Their insignia was simple, a skull within a triangle, surrounded by fire. Across from them, the Imperial envoy stood motionless, flanked by 3 tall, scaled honor guards. The envoy, a Vathari noble clad in gold-trimmed armor, bowed stiffly. "I am Envoy Talcair of the Galactic Throne. I am honored to receive Earth's finest military minds." Carson grinned and stepped forward. He had a limp, a scar splitting his cheek, and eyes like cracked glass. He said nothing, just extended his hand. Talcair hesitated. When he finally reached out, Carson pulled him in tight and whispered, "We're not generals, alien. We're what your generals call when their guts are hanging out and the enemy is already chewing on their bones." Talcair blinked. One of the honor guards subtly tightened their grip on their weapon. Behind Carson, the rest of the squad chuckled quietly. One of them, Juno, the one with shrapnel tattoos up both arms, licked a knife and smiled at the guard. Carson clapped the envoy on the shoulder. "Let's go save your empire." The Imperial cruiser lifted off 10 minutes later, bound for the war front. Aboard it were 10 of the most dangerous creatures Earth had ever produced, now wearing uniforms and given permission to kill aliens by the thousands. Back on Earth, General Molina watched the ship disappear into the sky. She didn't smile. She lit a cigarette, exhaled smoke, and whispered to herself. They think we sent officers. They're about to learn what we really sent. The planet was called Relos 4, though the humans renamed it Hellhole within 5 minutes of touchdown. Charred landscapes stretched across the horizon, craters, jagged obsidian ridges, and air that tasted like acid rain and burnt copper. The sky flickered with plasma bursts from orbital skirmishes above. And somewhere beyond the mountains, the Voidborn were coming. A perfect place to let the dogs off the leash. Inside the forward operations base, an ornate briefing room brimmed with dignified alien officers. Polished armor, ritual sashes, decorative feathers, the Galactic Empire's finest. In their midst, the humans looked like a spill of oil in a vat of wine. Carson sat backward on his chair, boots kicked onto the table. Beside him, Juno balanced a grenade on her forehead. Sykes, the silent one, was carving something obscene into the desk with a combat knife. General Talvar, a tall insectoid with 1,000 years of battlefield etiquette in his blood, cleared his throat. "We will proceed with the standard defense alignment," he said. "Quadrants Alpha through Delta will be held by honor divisions. The human unit will report to support Zone Echo and remain on standby for tactical reserve." "No," Carson interrupted. Talvar bristled. "Excuse me. We don't do standby. We don't hold lines. We don't wait around like scared little diplomats polishing our epaulets. You called us here because you're losing. So step aside, or we'll do this our way anyway." There was silence. Stunned silence. Talvar turned to Envoy Talkayer. "Is this the conduct of your people?" Talkayer looked ill. "They are Earth's chosen representatives." Juno giggled and flipped the grenade into the air. "We're not soldiers. We're symptoms." Carson stood. "We're leaving. You got an outpost going dark 6 clicks northeast. We saw it on the flight in. If it's overrun, we're burning the bastards out. Anyone tries to stop us." He pointed to Sykes, who now held up the desk, still bleeding from his carving. "Welcome to hell. Bring matches. You get the same treatment." The humans vanished into the wilderness an hour later. No one gave them orders. No one knew exactly where they went. Just a burst of static on comms, a hacked drop shuttle taken without authorization, and then silence. The Empire tried to send drones after them. The drones came back melted, if they came back at all. 3 days later, Relo's Outpost 17 sent a distress ping before going dark. The Voidborn had arrived. Surveillance footage recovered later showed the first wave of enemy creatures, twisted biomechanical things with jagged limbs and glowing core flesh, descending upon the outpost. The Empire garrison held for less than an hour before its shield buckled. Then something strange happened. The enemy started screaming. Not metaphorically. Actual sonic disruption waves emitting from Voidborn communications as they thrashed wildly, falling back. Not from resistance, but from terror. Something was in the smoke. Something fast, cruel, and relentless. Security cam footage from within the base showed brief, chaotic flashes. A Voidborn soldier impaled by his own shrapnel, reassembled into a trap. Booby traps that used the bones of Empire corpses as structural supports. Hades Squad, laughing like hyenas as they danced between burning husks. One clip went viral among Empire soldiers before being classified. Juno standing atop a wrecked crawler, covered in blood, holding a severed Voidborn limb like a baton, conducting an imaginary orchestra as flames erupted around her. Back at the command base, Talvar stared at the data reports, his mandibles twitching. "This is not war," he hissed. "This is a massacre." Talkayer nodded slowly. "Yes, and for the first time, it's our massacre." A young comms officer spoke. "Sir, we've got a message from the human unit." "Put it through." The screen lit up with Carson, his face streaked with soot and blood. "We cleared the outpost. Don't bother sending backup, unless it's to collect parts." "Parts?" Talvar asked. "Enemy parts. Might be useful for trophies or tech analysis. Or wall art. We're flexible." He paused. "Oh, and your men should stay back for now. This place is ours. Anyone not wearing human colors gets tagged as a threat. I don't care if they're Empire or not." The screen cut out. For hours after, no one in the Empire's upper command spoke. They had summoned Earth's finest warriors expecting strategy, protocol, and discipline. What they got instead was an army of nightmares wrapped in human skin. And for the first time in generations, the Empire began to feel something its proud fleets had never truly known. Fear. The footage was grainy, taken from the shattered remnants of a surveillance drone that barely escaped the blast radius. It showed Carson walking through the smoke, dragging a Voidborn corpse behind him. His uniform was scorched, splashed with something green and corrosive. He whistled as he walked, boots crunching over the ruins of what had once been an Imperial bunker. At the end of the clip, he looked directly into the lens, smiled, and winked. General Talvar paused the feed and turned to the chamber of Empire command officers. Around him, the room reeked of incense, fear, and silence. "This is who we have empowered," he said. "They're winning us battles," a younger officer countered. "The Voidborn haven't retaken a single site since the humans arrived." "At what cost?" Talvar snapped. "They used our dead as bait. They laced our own ammunition stockpiles with acid to prevent enemy capture," they said. "They strapped a Voidborn brain to a loudspeaker and forced it to scream until it broke its own mind. This isn't warfare. This is butchery." "Maybe that's what we need," said another voice. The room turned to face strategic High Lord Marnak, a crystalline being whose people were known for logic and caution. Even he looked uneasy. "We have been losing for decades," Marnak said. "Now the tide turns. Let it turn ugly, if that's the price." Talvar shook his head. "They're destabilizing the entire front. Morale is collapsing. Our own troops are terrified of them. There are whispers that the humans enjoy this." "Whispers," Marnak said. "They broadcast it." Somewhere in the field, a fire burned. A makeshift war camp had been carved into the hillside with explosives and profanity. A scavenged Voidborn comm tower now served as a crude transmitter, jury-rigged by Psychs to play Ride of the Valkyries in an endless loop. Human soldiers danced around the fire. One of them wore a Voidborn skull like a helmet. Another grilled meat over a plasma exhaust vent. Carson sat on a folding chair with a half-empty bottle of Earth whiskey, cleaning a weapon that technically didn't exist. Beside him, Juno was painting a mural on a stretch of concrete wall, an image of an Empire general crying blood. "You know they're watching us," she said without turning. "I hope so," Carson said. "Might learn something, or throw us in a black hole." "Same difference." A drone buzzed in, carrying an encrypted message. Carson opened it with a flick of his wrist. A brief hollow projection unfolded. "Imperial Command requests that Hades Squad refrain from further unauthorized neural experimentation and dismantling of enemy corpses within visibility range of Allied units." He tossed the device into the fire. Back at High Command, a lone voice spoke. Envoy Talkerer stood from the edge of the chamber, where he had remained silent through most of the proceedings. "I saw them up close," he said quietly. "The humans." All eyes turned. "They're not what we expected. Not tacticians. Not warriors in the way we define the word. They are apex predators. Chained, medicated, weaponized. And now we've unleashed them in the heart of a galactic war. Then why defend them?" Talvar asked. Talkeyer paused. "Because for the first time, the Voidborn are retreating." The reports began flooding in. An entire Voidborn hive collapsed overnight. Cause: localized seismic collapse, artificially induced with underground detonation charges built from scavenged reactor cores. An elite Empire scout team found a crater filled with Voidborn corpses arranged into a symbol, later identified as an ancient Terranomatican, a smiling face with crossbones. At least 5 Empire units refused to deploy in sectors where the humans had passed through. And yet, everywhere the Hades Squad operated, the war front bent in favor of the Empire. In 6 weeks, Earth's 10 officers had done more than 100 divisions combined. Later that night, Talvar stood alone on the balcony of the command citadel, watching the sky ripple with the lights of distant orbital fire. Beside him, Talkeyer approached with a data tablet. "They've cleared Sector 12, he said. "Enemy forces fled before engagement. No losses. Talvar didn't answer immediately. He simply stared into the stars, then spoke with a bitter edge in his voice. Tell me, old friend, when this war is over, what will we do with them? Talcair didn't smile. The better question is, what will they do with us? The Voidborn home swarm was a writhing tangle of biometal and quantum flesh, a moon-sized fortress suspended in the gas layers of a dying star. It pulsed like a living thing because it was. The Empire had never even reached it. Every attempt had been annihilated by its tendril fleets or twisted reality fields. Until Earth's monsters arrived. Carson stared at the holographic projection aboard the stolen Voidborn skimmer, half a grin tugging at the corner of his mouth. That's it, he said. Looks like a tumor with an ego problem. Sykes grunted, assembling what looked like a coil gun powered by a hybrid of alien technology and human insanity. Juno finished loading explosive spores into her bandolier, biological warheads scavenged and weaponized in complete disregard for every Imperial treaty. Stealth window closes in 6 minutes, said Iris, their squad tech, her voice flat. We punch in, we blow the core, we punch out, assuming we're still alive enough to punch. Mission parameters? Carson asked, already knowing the answer. She glanced up. Kill everything. Break what we can't kill. Leave a message. He nodded. That's more like it. Empire High Command received the last ping from Hades' squad 39 minutes after infiltration. Then silence. Again, Talvar stood in the war chamber, arms folded, watching the slow crawl of data from the outer sensors. Did they fail? He asked aloud. No, said Talcair beside him, holding up a fresh readout. They're rewriting the Voidborn network from the inside. It's no longer Voidborn. What? They've infected the swarm's hive mind. They're turning its thoughts against itself. It's mimicking human behavior. Talvar leaned closer. The data stream showed corrupted syntax, mockery, sarcasm, paradox loops. A line of Terran code blinked in repetition. Greater than 404. Mercy not found. And then the swarm began to collapse. Inside the home swarm, it was less like a battle and more like a fever dream. The walls screamed. The air bled. Physics frayed at the edges. Juno danced through halls of writhing tendons, dual pistols firing in perfect rhythm, her laughter echoing louder than the enemy's shrieks. Sykes planted charges inside the beating heart of the swarm, whispering lullabies to himself with each detonation. Carson stormed the command cortex, if it could be called that, ripping through layers of psychic defense like wet tissue. A tentacled monstrosity rose to stop him, only for Carson to rip out its eye and shove a thermal core down its throat. He kicked open a wall of living membrane. There, before him, the central node of the Voidborn collective mind pulsated, towering, trembling, afraid. It tried to speak. Carson threw a blade straight into its maw. No speeches. Then he pressed the final trigger. From orbit, the swarm died with a scream heard across 5 dimensions. Energy rippled out like a sun going supernova. And at the center of it, impossibly, 10 life signs burned bright, then vanished. Everyone assumed they were dead. Until 3 days later, when a shuttle descended from hyperspace, patched together from Voidborn hull plating, human explosives, and raw spite. Carson walked out first, shirtless, scarred, carrying a drink in one hand and a piece of the Voidborn mind core in the other. He dropped it at the feet of Talcair. Here, a souvenir. The rest of the squad followed, limping, laughing, bloody but unbowed. They walked like war given form. Talvar approached cautiously. How did you survive? Juno grinned. Tried dying once. Didn't like it. Sykes lit a cigarette with a plasma torch. We're worse than death anyway. Talcair looked at Carson. The war is over. No, Carson said. Your war is over. He stepped closer, voice low. Ours never ends. Don't forget that. Earth was offered a place of honor in the Empire. Medals, monuments, treaties. They refused most of it. Hades' squad returned to their cold, sealed facility beneath the ice. Voluntarily. Earth knew better than to let them walk free for long. Monsters need cages, after all. But the galaxy remembered. And in the decades to come, Whenever war reared its head and the Empire's finest failed, one question would echo in every council chamber, every command post, every trembling heart facing impossible odds. Can we call the humans again? And the answer, always, was spoken with equal parts awe and fear. Only if you're ready to lose your soul to win your war.